And welcome. It's Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright. We are the Veterans Impact Show. We're here and we're going to go live on radio and TV in just a moment. Thank you for being on board. Thank you for part of this, and share it and subscribe to our YouTube Veterans Impact Show. Here we go. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where we continue the mission of highlighting veterans and service organizations who continue to serve our community and our nation. We're brought to you by Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Don't worry, retire happy. Welcome aboard. Hey, what a great day we've got. We are here at the National Navy League Convention. Chuck Wright, my co-host, and the guy who helped me get this started, Marine Corps SAR pilot, great guy. Does so much for veterans within our community. Now, with the national deal, we have a color guard member from the Sea Cadets. June, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Seaman Apprentice Temporary Jen Sodi from the Captain Lucy Wilson Division.
And Jen, tell me what you like about Sea Cadets.
I joined the Captain Lucy Wilson Division towards the end of last year, and every officer has contributed to helping me transform from a quiet kid to a contributor, helper, and leader. They've taught me many life skills that I will cherish forever, and I hope that they will continue teaching me. I thank them for this.
June, you're great, buddy. Thank you so much. Now go do the color guard, because we're excited about that. And if you put now, I also want to introduce a really special guy from Lockheed Martin, Ken Cooper, the technical operations lead for the F-35 combat demonstration team. What you see behind us is that demonstrator. And Ken, you are an electrical engineer with Lockheed Martin. Thank you for being on board today, man.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey,
man, we are really upgrading the quality of education in our guests.
I know.
You and I are getting left in the dust. These guys are really rocket scientists.
We've got a rocket scientist. And to do it, the F-35 simulator, I saw this with one of your other team members in 2017. It's amazing. The F-35 is basically the newest, latest, and greatest in fleet avionics. And one of the things, what does this thing bring to stealth to our Navy? How does that work, Ken?
So the F-35 is, like you said, it is the latest and greatest aircraft that we have available. It does bring stealth. It brings a lot of other capabilities to the warfighter as well. What stealth does is allows the warfighter to get deep into enemy territory being undetected. If you can get closer to the fight, then you have a better chance of winning the fight because you can get there and not be seen.
That's a good deal. It's called ambush and surprise, right?
Ambush and surprise, yes, sir.
But this is a tremendous aircraft with all kinds of technology that we've never seen before, which is amazing. Now, this is also a single cockpit plane, right?
Yes.
So the pilots have to train in actual simulators before they jump out and go in because they ain't got an instructor with them, correct?
That's correct. The aircraft is a single seat. So when the pilots fly this airplane, they're flying it solo first time.
Wow. Now, this is a supersonic aircraft.
Yes, sir. Mach 1.6 max speed.
Wow. I mean, that's honking on. Plus, it carries weapons internally.
Honking on, is that an industry term?
Yeah. Well, it's a Marine Corps term.
Okay.
And I think it's amazing because they were talking about the statistics of this aircraft yesterday. You guys, you've got more fuel capacity, more weapons capacity, more technology than anybody's ever seen before. This is a huge upgrade.
Absolutely. So the reason and this aircraft can get deeper into that enemy territory is because it carries a lot of fuel internally. And if you have the fuel inside, then you're less likely to have external fuel tanks. External fuel tanks will generate a larger signature, and you're more likely to be detected. So by keeping the fuel inside and we keep the weapons inside, you have a clean aircraft, and now you can get deeper into that territory.
You know, Ken, this is so amazing, Lockheed Martin and this technology. Now, you're an electrical engineer.
Yes.
You have multiple degrees, accounting, business.
Yes.
Is there a lot of job opportunities in Lockheed Martin for guys like you? Are they looking for people like you all the time?
Our company is continually growing. We are hiring people like crazy. So,
Okay.
yes, there's many opportunities for people to come and join our company.
Well, where would they go? Is there a Lockheed Martin website?
Yes, sir, at lockheedmartin.com. Go to lockheedmartin.com. You can see all of the positions that are available, not just at aeronautics, but throughout the corporation, around the country and around the world.
Now, this simulator, the demonstrator, is the C model for the C model, which is the Navy version, correct?
That's a very good question. However, the cockpits well, first there are 3 different variants of the F-35, A model, B model, and C model. The A model is more like an F-16 conventional takeoff and landing. The B model is a STOVL, short takeoff, vertical landing, more like a Harrier. And the C model is a carrier variant, can take off and land on a ship, more like an F-18. But the cockpits are the same for all 3 variants.
Now, you also have within the helmet and the face mask, you have a lot of the electronic display, and that's what we're seeing with this demonstrator, correct?
Yes, sir. So the typical traditional fighter has a heads-up display. So there's tactical information on that display. The pilot looks through that glass and he sees information for his flying the aircraft. The F-35 doesn't have a heads-up display. Instead, that information is piped into the pilot's visor, so you can have all that data as you're moving your head around. In addition, we have sensors on the outside of the jet that can feed video into the visor. So now the pilot can actually see around outside the aircraft, looking through the aircraft, essentially looking through the aircraft. And it's day or night, so you don't have to wear night vision goggles either. It's all included into that helmet.
That's pretty amazing. Would you like to have had something like that when you were flying?
That would have been pretty slick. And from watching them walk people through this, and talk about this a little bit, Ken, it seems like it's easy. It's actually, as we talk about a much more complex aircraft, it's actually easier to fly.
Yes, sir. The aircraft is very, very complex. There's a lot of software. It is a fly-by-wire jet. It is computer controlled, but the pilot controls the computer. He tells the computer what to do, and the computer tells the aircraft what to do. So yes, it is very complex, but it's not complicated for the pilot to use it. Flying, as you mentioned, is very, very easy. This pilot just advance the throttle, pitch the nose up, and the airplane's taking off, get the landing gear up, and you're flying. Not much more to do. It's a very stable platform as well.
And that's the thing that's fascinating. How did they create such a stable, because when you look at it, it has relatively stubby wings. And generally you think of that as being a very unstable aircraft, like a stunt plane, but you're talking about it being a very stable flying platform. So talk about that a little bit.
Yes, sir. So the aircraft is astable, right? But with the flight control computer controlling the surfaces, it makes it a stable platform for flying. That astability gives it greater authority and makes it very maneuverable.
Wow.
That flight control computer is doing a lot of work, and it's keeping that aircraft stable. As long as the pilot is not changing or not adding any input, the airplane just continues to fly just like the pilot left it.
The other thing that I'm fascinated with, kind of going back a little bit, you talked about an A version, a B version, and the C version. So effectively, for the first time in history, all of our services are flying the same basic airframe. And I realize there are differences between them, but you're talking about making the logistical pipeline so much simpler. When we deployed, my last deployment, we had 5 different aircraft, which meant you needed parts for 5 different aircraft. And every time we went in the port, our poor aviation logistics officer just pulling his hair out. It sounds like it's making the world a lot easier in the flying community.
Well, that's one of the things we have to do. You know, as you're saying, as we move forward in timeline, cost is always a major factor. And if we can have some of the same parts, same components between different variants, so you don't have to have that large supply of different parts.
You know, one of the things I think is just so amazing about this is how many planes have been put into the fleet and put into the Marine Corps and put into aviation. I mean, you guys, Lockheed Martin has been just really turning them out. And you still got a long way to go because you're replacing a lot of what was in the fleet.
Yes, sir. This aircraft is designed to do the roles of several different types of airplanes, including the F-16, the F-18, the Aviate, the A-10, so it can do those roles, not necessarily replacing those airplanes, but it can replace those roles. Whether it replaces those aircraft itself or not is determined by the government or by the forces themselves.
Ken, one of the discussions that was in a Navy League briefing yesterday that we really enjoyed was they were talking about this aircraft and what a deterrent it is, because this thing is equal to or superior to almost any aircraft that's made in the world as a fighter type aircraft. I was amazed by that discussion.
So if you think about, I'll use this analogy. If you happen to be in a bar, not that you would be, if you happen to be in a bar.
He was a Marine.
I was going to say.
Still is, I guess.
We were born in a bar.
And then it was at night, and the lights went out, and there was a fight. Who would win the fight?
The guy under the table that doesn't get involved.
He would be a survivor.
Yeah.
Yes. But who would win the fight would be the one that could see.
Yeah.
So with this aircraft and the advanced sensors that are on the aircraft and the net-centric operation allows the pilot to be able to see where the friends are, see where the enemy is, whether they're in the air or on the ground, without being detected or less likely to be detected. So if I can see you for long before you see me, I have the ability to get a weapon off on you before you can do anything about it.
One of the things, too, that they were talking about in that briefing yesterday was the information that comes in is then resent out to your fleet command and control center. So every aircraft that's within this range of this combat mission is going to have the same information and know about this threat. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, sir. There is a multifunction advanced data link on the F-35 that allows communication between aircraft to transferring a lot of data, right? A lot of information. Information sharing is a great part of the 5th generation capabilities. So if one aircraft sees or has detected an entity, the other aircraft will see the same thing. So we don't have to fly close formation anymore. They can fly much greater distances, and we're still sharing the data.
That's pretty amazing technology today, but it's still a manned aircraft.
Manned aircraft.
And
Yes,
that's important. I think as a pilot, and Chuck, you're a pilot, having that human factor in there to make that final decision, I think is very, very, very important. This is one of the big things about this Navy League National Convention. We've had the opportunity to not only see this demonstrator and experience it, but get to hear and talk to some of the industry leading professionals, and not only companies like Lockheed Martin, but Boeing and other companies, and what they're doing to keep our warfighters safe, to make things easier, which is a deterrent, because, you don't want to go into the ring with somebody that outclasses you. That's for sure.
That is absolutely true. We do want to have the technical advantage. Training is a big part of this. So again, the pilot would have to do a lot of training, not just to learn how to fly the aircraft, because we made that easy, but being able to process the information that's being provided and be able to use that information more effectively.
And, I think there's a lot of opportunities for young men and women today to go into the military and learn these technologies, and their job opportunities, like you were saying, Lockheed Martin hires, Boeing hires, a lot of companies are hiring. In Dallas, Fort Worth, we've got some like 450 military production companies that provide things to the military. There's a lot of opportunities once you understand and have worked with this technology. True?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So at our company, we're employing, I don't know, roughly 20,000 people or so at our facility in Fort Worth, in aeronautics. And people might think that I'm not the engineer that knows all of this stuff. I'm not a pilot. However, you can do many other things more than just engineering in our company and be a part of the F-35 program.
I think that's outstanding. Well, we're going to continue this conversation in just a minute. This is Chuck Wright, and I'm Jim Blythe, and we're here with Ken Cooper, electrical engineer from Lockheed Martin, with the F-35 cockpit demonstrator. This is the sort of thing that we've got going at Navy League this year, as well as Sea Cadets with discussions about the Maritime Strategies Group under Navy League. We're here for you. Check us out. Go to the Navy League National website. I think they're going to be able to tell you a lot of exciting things about this maritime organization. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation.
Hey, we're back here, and we're having a great discussion with Ken Cooper of Lockheed Martin. And I want to ask you, Ken, you've now been with Navy League here this weekend. What are some of the interesting things you've seen or heard while you're here in the Navy League discussions?
So yes, I'm here at Navy League, and what I do actually with cockpit demonstrators, this one in particular, is we carry these things around the world doing demonstrations, participating in air shows and exhibitions and conferences and those kinds of things. It's always interesting to me to see the different ideas or different concepts or feelings from different people around the industry, not just the industry, but around the military and the government as well.
Well, Navy League is supporting all of the sea services, whether it's Navy, Marine Corps. Well, yeah, you are sea service.
Oddly enough, I spent more time on Navy ships and Navy air stations than a lot of my Navy buddies did.
And you know, this aircraft is, it looks like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, revolutionizing how the Marine Corps is able to function and operate in those battle situations.
Well, the interesting thing to me, and the aircraft itself, the V-stall capabilities really started with the British Harrier jump jet, but this is taking that to an entirely different level in learning more and more about what the F-35B can do, which is the Marine variant of the three. But I wanted to ask you, Ken, how long does Lockheed project it will take to completely integrate the F-35 into all really four of the services?
So we're actually in the process of delivering aircraft to the services now.
Right.
So our delivery schedule is based on contracts, and whenever the governments, not just U.S. government, the governments intend to have these aircraft in service. So we're doing concurrent production for all three variants.
Right.
On that one assembly line.
That assembly line, I got a chance to go a couple of years ago and tour that facility.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me tell you, that facility, unless they've expanded it, is a mile long. Correct, Ken?
Yes, that's correct.
That is the most amazing piece of engineering I've ever seen when it comes to manufacturing. I mean, this is where it's at. And
Starts at one end and finished product coming out the other end. That's pretty cool.
And they're producing them like crazy, man.
It's going in on one end and airplanes coming out of the other.
I like it.
I think that's terrific, man. Well, we're so thankful to have you here and have Lockheed Martin and be able to show this. And again, if you want to know more about Lockheed Martin, go to, their website,
LockheedMartin.com.
LockheedMartin.com. Well, Ken, thank you for being on board, buddy. I got to tell you, you're great, man.
Thank you very much.
Having a rocket scientist sitting next to me.
I know. It's we were elevating the quality of the show beyond anything we ever imagined.
Without a doubt. Well, thank you. Well, let's continue the conversation, Chuck, in talking about Navy League, because we've been here. For instance, yesterday they had the Center for Maritime Strategies, Admiral Fogo, and I think you got to go to the National Defense Series briefing to hear Admiral Fogo, and what they're talking about is planning for the future, because war and strategies are tremendously changing.
It is fascinating the level of the threats, because we're not developing this technology in a vacuum. So other countries are certainly doing this, and some of these other countries are not looking very favorably at us. And obviously I'm talking about primarily China, although we're seeing some of it in the Ukraine. Although I have to say this has been, there has never been a better piece of advertising for American technology than watching the Russians absolutely get their tails kicked by the Ukrainians that are really using, you talked about Gen 5, Ken. This is the Generation 5 of our fighters. And the Russians are really, it's like we're beating them with Generation 4 material and Generation 3. They're coming at us with like Generation 2 stuff. And the technological difference. And our friend John Natl would love to jump into that. Sorry, we're kind of doing time, and bear with us a little bit here. And one thing that I want to do in our last 30 seconds before we jump on a break, I want to very much thank Nathaniel Smith from Ascend Podcasts for producing the show. The lovely Mrs. Diane Blythe, the glue that keeps the show going, who's coordinating guests in and out. It is a little, it does look a little bit haphazard as we are here on location at the Navy League.
Chuck, this is the first time in years we've been able to do this. So let's take
cool.
a break, and we're going to do more of this. So this is Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright, Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you.
Ken, thanks so much.
Thank you, buddy.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation.
Hey, welcome back. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're bringing in Michael Titius.
Hey, Michael, Chuck Wright.
Nice to meet you, Chuck.
I wanted you to come in and talk about the Sea Cadets, because one of the big things that Navy League supports is the Sea Cadets. And we had Jen on earlier. You're an instructor. You were one of the original Sea Cadets back in the 1960s, weren't you?
70s, actually.
70s, okay.
So the unit had already been formed, and then I came in shortly after that. 1975, joined the League Cadets, the Ranger unit, which is one of the first units in the United States. It was commissioned in 58, same time as the Navy League started.
Now, with Sea Cadets, these are for junior high and high school age kids. They correspond the same with the Marine Corps Young Marines
program.
And matter of fact, we drill, I think, the same weekends with the Young Marines out at the Joint Reserve Base. So this is not Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, although we have boys and girls that are going through the program. They're getting to train alongside Navy reservists. We did a great program down at Fredericksburg with the Tribe Ranch, and we're able to get these kids out and teach them all kinds of first aid, things that they've had a ball. We've had them out on the water.
We should probably mention, people will think about Fredericksburg, which is 150, 200 miles from the coast. Why is Fredericksburg significant to the Navy? Because it happens to be the home of one of the greatest Navy admirals ever, Admiral Chester Nimitz. And if you ever get a chance, not only is Fredericksburg an amazing Central Texas town, but it is also home to the Museum of the Pacific War, one of the finest military museums in the country. So I wanted to throw that in right quick so that people understood, it's amazing how many people come from landlocked cities and states to great careers in the Navy. And face it, when you don't see the ocean all the time, you're even more amazed by its power. So had to put in a little plug for the Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce there.
I think
great
that's
town.
Great.
My wife and I love it.
I believe that the hotel that's there too was Admiral Nimitz's home.
You are exactly correct.
That's exactly
His
correct.
family he grew up in Fredericksburg. His family ran a hotel, and that hotel is the entrance, if you will, to the museum.
So what does Navy League do? Well, it is a civilian organization, primarily ex-Navy, but also Marines, Army, and a lot of civilians. One of the guys from Kansas, Ward, is a civilian who's president of that group. So Navy League is throughout the world, throughout the United States, and we promote the sea services, which is the Navy, the Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Merchant Marine. I can't think of anybody else.
No, you pretty much got it.
Yeah. But I think one of the things, and Diane and I are instructors in Sea Cadets, that is so important to what Navy League does. This gives a chance for young men and women to get a taste of the military, but to learn leadership, just like Jund when we had the open the show. That gives them a chance to really grow and learn about things. This is not Boy Scouts. This is many steps up, right, Michael?
Correct. There are no obligation to go into any of the branches of the service when they enter, but what they teach them, it's a leadership building. When the cadets go out there, they go through an RT training, a recruit training. Afterwards, they will take actually the same correspondence courses that the regular Navy takes.
You know, one of the things that I think is so interesting, in so many families that are single parent families, these kids get a structure. They get a chance to really learn. And basically, what I didn't know was 100% of our kids graduate from high school.
Correct.
100%. Think about that. What's the national average? Maybe 70%?
It is 70, 80%.
Yeah.
But it is much lower. So one thing I was going to ask you, we talk about Sea Cadets and talk about the Young Marines program, the Civil Air Patrol. How are those different from junior ROTC?
So with the JROTC in the high school level, they learn your basic marching maneuvers, military structure, chain of command, and whatnot. But with the Sea Cadets and Lee Cadets, you're actually drilling at the base, most of these units. And they get a chance to work at the different shops on base, whether it be the transit line or Photoshop. In the summertime, like when I went through, you had shipboard duty. So we'd spend 2 weeks to a month out at sea. I was on the USS Kitty Hawk. And
Nice.
My field was aviation bosun's mate. So I was attached to the squadron that was, to the unit that was launching the aircraft off the carrier.
Oh, wow. And that's a
What a better thing for a 16-year-old kid to be doing, right?
Isn't that great?
It is, you almost have to be there. The young, and we think about the 18, 19, 20-year-old young men and women that are handling aircraft on the deck of a carrier. But until you're on that deck, you cannot understand the choreography that goes on, the amount of work, the responsibility these young people have. And it is absolutely amazing, and what a great opportunity. But I was trying to lead you a little bit, but the one thing about Sea Cadets, Young Marines, Civil Air Patrol, the JROTC programs are tied to a specific high school. And if your high school doesn't have it, you can't participate. But that's not the case with
No,
Sea
that's
Cadets, is
true.
it?
No, any school you go to doesn't matter. You're able to go out to the unit, you drill with them. It doesn't matter what part of the city you're from. Everybody drills. We drill 1 week in a month, and then they do their training in the summertime. So yes, to answer your question, you're not tied to one area.
And that's incredibly important because Sea Cadets, Young Marines are funded by a grant from the Drug Enforcement Agency.
Mm-hmm.
This is an anti-drug program. And for me, it seems like an incredibly effective one that we need to keep going, where kids from all schools have an opportunity to participate.
You talk about an anti-drug program. The Sea Cadets also offers drug reduction training. So it
Tell us about that a little bit.
It teaches the kids about the dangers of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
They go into in-depth about all the different drugs that are out there. And once they have a certain number of hours of training, they can actually earn a ribbon for a drug reduction. And then we can send that on to their school to let them know that they've passed this course.
Wow, that's outstanding.
And so what we're doing in introducing you to Navy League National, there are Navy League councils throughout the United States. Here's an opportunity to get involved with our maritime services, but get involved with veterans. Get involved with people who are continuing the mission,
Absolutely.
making a big difference. Now, you're heavily involved with Marine Corps League. I know there's an association of the U.S. Army, an association of Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
These are all important. Air Force also has a program similar to Young Marines and Navy Sea Cadets.
Yeah, it's the Civil Air Patrol program. It's a little bit of a one-off. but an exciting program, and we have a fairly active chapter here in DFW, where these young people can actually participate in search and rescue operations. Now, they're not actually landing in close LZs.
You just did one, I think, a couple of weeks ago with the Coast Guard in Louisville.
Yes.
Operation Bluegill, if I'm not mistaken.
So there's incredible opportunities for, and we really stress this for young people. If we've got any single parents that are out there, I know that, and you talked about Marine Corps League, and one of the female Marines that's in my Marine Corps League, she has 5 kids. And one of the things she has needed and leaned on heavily is mentoring programs for her kids. It is difficult to be full-time employed, a one-parent household, and to try to do all the things that a kid really needs. But to give that, this is why this is such a great opportunity for young people to get involved, to do something and be part of something bigger than they are, even if you don't go into the service. And talk a little bit about that. So let's talk about some of the life skills someone will leave. And you've probably got many examples. Somebody who's left did not go into the service, but still can look at Sea Cadets as a way of.
A good example. Okay. So when I graduated out of the program,
okay,
there was quite a few that did go into the service and had great careers. There were some that didn't. The majority of the ones that didn't go in, they either had their own businesses, or they took other career paths, such as one that became a judge in Fort Worth.
Wow.
A district judge. So he went all the way through the Sea Cadet program, Lead Cadet, Sea Cadets, got out, couldn't go in because he wanted to fly and he had vision problems. So he ended up going to A&M, got out, and became a judge in Fort Worth.
Well, now that's a little bit offensive to Jim and I as fans of the University of Texas, but we will forgive.
Because of the color of your shirt, then maybe there might be a little bit of A&M.
But also, a lot of our Sea Cadets, there are numerous ones who've gotten appointments to colleges, NROTC, the Academy. Dan Bradley, who is now commanding officer of VR-59 at the Joint Reserve Base, the Fleet Logistics Squadron. He is a former Sea Cadet. And man, it made all the difference in the world to him.
Our area commander, Captain Jim Jones, was a former Sea Cadet in California.
So, yeah, very cool. So you've mentioned Sea Cadets and Lee Cadets.
Correct.
Talk about that.
There's two different groups. So the Lee Cadets, it used to be ages 11 to 13. Now they've expanded it. It's ages 10 to 13.
Okay.
So that is the, so to speak, entry level. The kids come in, they join the Lee Cadets, they learn basic military maneuvers, structure, discipline, courtesies, and whatnot. From there, you go in, when you're 13, you go into the Sea Cadets. And the Sea Cadets, that's when you go to an RT training, and they hone you in more on the different skill sets that you would do in the service. But they also teach you leadership. And as these kids advance, they have opportunities to lead the unit or lead squads and whatnot. So they have billets, they have jobs that they need to perform, and they have people under them that come to them for advice, and then they report to their superiors and so on. Same structure, just like the other services.
You know, Michael, we had 3 high school graduates, 2 of which were going to college, and I helped, and we got scholarships for both of those people, and we awarded those last month. And that's another thing that Navy League does. It supports Sea Cadets, it supports those scholarships, it supports the sea services. Now, another thing, and you and I participated, we've gone to the Joint Reserve Base to help the barbecues put on for our members of our VR-59. Christmas time, we got involved with them as well. So it's a real involvement. And most of the Sea Cadet most of the councils sponsor either ships or squadrons. We sponsor a ship that's in the
Century, I believe.
The Century.
Persian Gulf.
And then we sponsor VR-59 at the Joint Reserve Base. And I think we're looking for another USS Dallas. One of these days, there's going to be one out there.
That's right. They just retired the one that was there.
Yeah. So this is
the Dallas was a submarine, by the way. So I can, without insulting it, call it a boat. Submarines are the only ships in the Navy that you are not insulting them by calling them boats, because they are boats instead of ships.
Well,
I have no idea the distinction, but I used to drive the squids on the Peleliu crazy when I'd call it a boat.
Yeah.
And they'd get all upset.
We'd
all laugh.
So all of these things that Navy League does. Now, a lot of people say, well, gee, I'd like to know more. Well, you can go to NavyLeague.org. I believe that's correct. Nathaniel, can you put that up? Yes. Nathaniel is putting it up. Also, there are so many opportunities within the military, within the Navy, within the Marine Corps.
Really within all the services.
All of the services. Diane's grandson, who now is my step-grandson, is in Iwakuni, Japan with the Marine Corps.
We like your grandson.
As
we like to say in our house, there are only steps lead upstairs.
That's right.
So I got to inject here for just a second. As our viewers have been watching, behind us is the F-35 simulator, which is actually really cool. So I texted my son once I got here. I should have thought about it beforehand, but he has just entered the F-35 simulator, and I'm really curious. Am I going to hook him on a career in the military, or is he going to say, nah, I'd rather stay on dry land?
I got to tell you, we got a recruiter out there. Yep. I've got a ballpoint pen.
Uh-oh. Well, let's wait till he gets through.
Boot camp, all three of us have said, and by the way, our Sea Cadets do go through a boot camp. Yeah, and so that made one of the biggest differences in my life as far as changing me for the positive. So this is Chuck Wright, the great Marine SAR pilot. I'm Jim Blythe, Michael Tislius with Sea Cadets, fellow instructor. I got to tell you, we have had so much fun talking about Sea Cadets. Stick around for a second when we come back, Michael, and we'll wrap up this program. This is great. This is a Veterans Impact Show. We're here at Navy League National. Join us.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation.
Welcome back. We're going to wrap this program up and bring it into the dock. Again, I want to say thank you to Fairway Independent Mortgage, my company, who helps pay for this. That is terrific what they do. We're a faith-based company. My MLS number is 311-548. Ours is 2289 corporate. We are the largest non-bank mortgage company in the nation. Also, we contribute. Thank you again, Nathaniel Smith with Ascend Podcasting, all the engineering, and putting this remote together. This has been a fantastic remote opportunity, and we're so glad to do that. And my wife, Diane, for producing, engineering, and doing the social media.
So, Jim, before we go to our closing prayer, Michael's got a short story he wants to share.
Oh, tell us a short story.
Another success story we had a cadet, when he graduated out of the program, went into the Marines, and he came out as a JAG officer.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Right. We got to love our JAG officers. They really are called JAGs, Judge Advocate Group. And those are the Marine and Navy and Air Force lawyers.
We're going to talk. I'm sorry, we're getting things going on. It's fun to do live remotes. We had a guest come in. Would you come in and introduce yourself? We'd like to have you come aboard. And here you go, Michael. Let's do this real quick.
Thank you so much, Jim.
We'll just take it.
Thank you very much, Michael. Enjoyed it.
And Michael, thank you, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Much success to you.
Okay, we're going to continue to vamp here while we get everything set up, and we look forward to introducing our next guest.
Hey, Tim, how are you doing? Jim Blythe and you, Chuck Wright.
Nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you,
We're
sir.
excited about having you on board.
Well, great.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I'm Tim Moon, and I'm a retired Rear Admiral in the Navy. And for the past 8 years, I've been associated with the Sea Cadets, and I've been currently serve as their chairman of the board.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, wow.
So it's been.
So you know my friend Bill Davis.
Yes, I do.
Bill Davis is the executive director of Young Marines.
I'm one
Okay.
of your instructors.
Yes.
There we go.
It's and this is very good because one of our things is really promoting ourselves out in the community so that people understand who we are and the great opportunities that we provide America's youth to develop the skills they need to be adults.
And this is
Tim-
really outstanding because the motto of our show is Charlie Mike, continue the mission. And I don't think there is a more powerful way to continue the mission than to create opportunities for young people to learn leadership, to draw on new experiences. Even if they don't go into the military, they still, as Michael was talking about, still have incredible success stories coming out, significantly higher than the national average high school graduation rates. So we really appreciate the work that you are doing, sir.
Well, thank you. And I couldn't say it any better than you just did. Our whole goal is to give kids the opportunity to experience a variety of career fields through our training programs in the summer, where they come together and do everything from culinary training in a very great environment to learning how to be a special warfare SEAL type person in special operations, and we even have kids that get their pilot's license, their private pilot's license. So we have an aviation training program. We're trying to branch into new things like recognizing the problems that the shipbuilding industry has in getting employees.
Right.
And that we're trying to partner with them now to establish a shipbuilding awareness training program in concert with the shipyards,
That's something that's needed.
so that kids can that don't necessarily want to go to college, but they want to pursue a career. They can pursue a tremendous career in that field if it's something that they desire.
Well,
Jim,
Admiral,
thank you so much for being
we've-
here. I'm going
we've
to turn
got
it
to-
over to Jim to close out the
we've
show.
got to pull this into the dock, and I want to say thank you so much, and thank you for what you do. So I'd like to close with a prayer. Dearest God, maker of heaven and earth, we thank you for all you do. We thank you for Navy League. We thank you for all of these men and women who contribute so much. We thank you for protecting our active duty military, our first responders who run into the fire and take care of us. Thank you, dear God. And thank you for veterans like Admiral Moon and many, many veterans, whether it's enlisted or even volunteers, who jump in and lead this nation. So, dear God, we pray that you will lead this nation, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Admiral Moon, what a blessing to have you on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I got to tell you, were you a Marine?
I was.
He was a rear
Navy.
admiral, so I don't think he
not
was
rear
a Marine.
Okay, I missed that. Well, we'll have to have you come back because I tell you, we want to promote Sea Cadets. This has been the Veterans Impact Show. I'm Jim Blythe with Chuck Wright, and we thank you for being on board. Subscribe, be a part, Veterans Impact Show.
Perfect.